Imagine a land where humanity itself began, a place filled with ancient kingdoms, amazing discoveries, epic struggles, and triumphs that changed history. This is the story of Africa, a continent with a past as vast and colorful as its landscapes. Africa's journey starts at the dawn of humanity and stretches all the way to the independence movements of the 20th century. Today, we'll take you on an incredible journey through this amazing history, from the very first humans to the heroes who fought for freedom. So sit back, relax, and join us on this adventure through time. Our story begins millions of years ago with the earliest humans. In East Africa, an area known as the Great Rift Valley became home to our ancient ancestors. Hominins, the early relatives of humans, began to evolve here. Fossils and artifacts give us clues about their lives, like the famous skeleton, Lucy, discovered in Ethiopia. Lucy lived around 3.2 million years ago, and her bones show that she could walk on two legs, which was an important step in human evolution. In Tanzania, at Olduvai Gorge, scientists found tools made by these early humans, showing us that Africa was where people first started using tools and changing the world around them. As these early humans learned to survive and adapt, they eventually began migrating out of Africa to explore other parts of the world. But that didn't mean Africa's story was over. It was only just beginning. Let's fast forward to around 3000 BCE. While the pyramids were rising in Egypt, other great civilizations were forming across Africa. In the heart of the Sahara Desert, the kingdom of Nubia was emerging. Nubia was a major cultural and political force, and became Egypt's powerful neighbor to the south. These two civilizations had a complicated relationship. Sometimes they were allies and traded valuable resources like gold and ivory, and at other times they were rivals, even going to war. There was even a period when Nubian kings ruled Egypt, leaving a lasting mark on Egyptian history. The mighty Nile River connected these two lands, allowing them to share ideas, goods, and culture. Nubia wasn't just influenced by Egypt, though. The Nubians had their own unique culture, language, and art. They built their own pyramids at a place called Meroe, which was an important city in the Nubian kingdom. These pyramids were smaller than those in Egypt, but they showed incredible skill and were a symbol of Nubian kings' strength and connection to the gods. Nubia's story reminds us that Africa has always been home to powerful civilizations with rich cultures. But Africa's story isn't just about Egypt and Nubia. Farther west, near the Niger River, another powerful kingdom began to rise around the 8th century CE, the Kingdom of Ghana. This wasn't the same Ghana we know today, but it was a great empire known for its wealth in gold, salt, and iron. Ghana's king controlled the trade routes that connected North Africa with West Africa. Merchants traveled across the hot, dry Sahara Desert, bringing goods like salt and horses to trade for gold, ivory, and kola nuts from Ghana. This trade route became one of the earliest and most important in history, bringing wealth and new ideas to West Africa. The people of Ghana lived in an advanced society where ironworking was a special skill. They made strong iron tools for farming and weapons for defense. Ghana's wealth and organization impressed traders and visitors from all over, making it a center of commerce and culture. As time went on, the Kingdom of Ghana eventually declined, but another great empire rose in its place, the Mali Empire, founded in the 13th century. Under the leadership of Sundiata Keita, Mali grew strong and prosperous, eventually becoming one of the most powerful empires in West Africa. But it was Mansa Musa, who ruled in the 14th century, who brought Mali to its peak. Mansa Musa is often said to be the wealthiest person in history because of Mali's vast gold mines. In 1324, he made a famous pilgrimage, or journey, to Mecca, the holy city of Islam. This journey showed the world Mali's wealth, as Mansa Musa brought a huge caravan of camels loaded with gold. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage wasn't just about showing wealth. It also helped bring scholars, artists, and architects to Mali. When he returned, he transformed Timbuktu, a city in Mali, into a great center of learning. Scholars came to study in Timbuktu's universities, and the city became famous for its libraries, filled with books on science, history, and religion. Timbuktu's golden age reminds us that Africa was a place of knowledge, creativity, and culture. Meanwhile, in southern Africa, another incredible civilization was taking shape: Great Zimbabwe. Founded around the 11th century, Great Zimbabwe became the center of an empire that traded gold and ivory with merchants from Arabia, India, and even as far away as China. The city was known for its massive stone walls and structures, built without any mortar to hold the stones together. These walls showed the skill and creativity of the Shona people who lived there. Great Zimbabwe's economy was based on cattle herding, farming, and long-distance trade. The ruins of Great Zimbabwe still stand today, and they are a symbol of African ingenuity and achievement. The name Zimbabwe means stone houses in the Shona language, and the country of Zimbabwe is named after this ancient kingdom. Great Zimbabwe was part of a network that connected Africa to the wider world, showing that African civilizations were not isolated, but part of a global exchange of goods and ideas. Africa was flourishing with diverse civilizations, each with its own culture, wealth, and innovations. But in the 15th century, a new chapter began with the arrival of European explorers. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to reach the coast of Africa. They set up trading posts and built forts to control the trade in goods like gold, spices, and ivory. Soon, other European nations followed, each wanting a share of Africa's wealth. Unfortunately, this period also marked the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, one of the darkest chapters in African history. Europeans captured and forced millions of Africans to leave their homes and work as slaves in the Americas. This caused unimaginable suffering and loss, tearing apart African societies and families for generations. Entire communities were disrupted, and many skilled craftsmen, warriors, and leaders were lost to this brutal trade. As if the horrors of the slave trade weren't enough, by the 19th century, European powers turned their sights to Africa's land itself. In 1884, European leaders met at the Berlin Conference to divide Africa among themselves without consulting any African leaders. This was the beginning of colonialism in Africa, where European countries took control of African lands, resources, and people. Colonizers introduced new systems that ignored African traditions and often exploited local people for labor. Africans resisted colonial rule fiercely. One of the most famous examples of resistance was the Zulu kingdom in southern Africa. Under the leadership of King Shaka, the Zulus built a powerful military and stood against European invaders. In West Africa, Samori Touré led a strong army against the French colonizers, while Queen Nzinga of Angola fought bravely against the Portuguese. Ethiopia was one of the few African countries to successfully resist colonization. In 1896, Emperor Menelik II led his forces' victory against the Italians at the Battle of Adwa, preserving Ethiopia's independence. Despite the hardships of colonial rule, Africans never lost hope. In the 20th century, inspired by global movements for freedom and equality, leaders across the continent began pushing for independence. Visionaries like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, and Julius Nyerere in Tanzania became voices for a free Africa. These leaders saw the injustices of colonial rule and believed that Africa deserved to shape its own future. Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence in 1957 under the leadership of Kwame Nkrumah. This achievement inspired other African nations, sparking a wave of independence movements. By the 1960s, most African countries had won their freedom, marking the end of colonialism and the beginning of a new era. This period was filled with celebrations, but it also brought challenges as these young nations worked to build their economies and unite diverse groups of people. Africa's journey from the birthplace of humanity to a continent of modern, independent nations is filled with resilience, strength, and hope. Today, Africa is home to 54 independent countries, each with unique cultures, languages, and histories. Africa continues to grow and thrive, contributing to the world in technology, culture, sports, environmental conservation, and more. So the next time you think about Africa, remember this incredible history. From the earliest humans to mighty empires, to the courageous fight for independence. Africa's past is a story of strength and inspiration that continues to shape the continent and the world today. This remarkable journey has laid the foundation for a future filled with hope, creativity, and resilience. Africa's people, landscapes, and heritage have always been a source of wonder and pride. Every ancient kingdom, every struggle for freedom, and every triumph over adversity has contributed to the Africa we see today. Today, Africa's influence reaches far beyond its borders. African musicians, artists, writers, and thinkers contribute to a global culture, showcasing the richness of African heritage. African scientists and entrepreneurs are leading innovations in technology, health, and environmental solutions, addressing challenges like climate change and disease. Cities like Lagos, Nairobi, and Johannesburg are becoming hubs of innovation, art, and commerce. Young African leaders are championing causes like education, economic development, and sustainable energy, helping to shape a brighter future for the continent. Africa's journey doesn't end here. It continues every day. From the traditions passed down through generations to the new ideas and dreams of today's youth, Africa's history is alive in its people, its stories, and its endless potential. This story isn't just Africa's, it's a part of all of us. The resilience and achievements of Africa's past can inspire us all to create a world of unity, respect, and shared progress. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through the history of Africa. If you enjoyed learning about Africa's rich past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay updated on our latest videos. We have more amazing stories from history to share with you, so we'll see you in the next one.